State Film Festival. And here with me today, I have Rick Kendi Nozier, director, writer, producer, Joe Baez, starring in, Darren Davidson, who is an assistant director and editor, William Willis, who is cinematographer, and Francesco Nuzzi, who also starred in the film Hard Feelings. How's everybody doing today?
We're doing great.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
So, Rick, you directed and assistant directed Darren, but you wrote this as well. Could you give us, our live viewers, a bit about the film Hard Feelings?
Yes. So this story is about Daniel, played by Joe, who had his brother, shot by a police officer. Eddie, played by Frank, and basically the story is the one night if he confronts Eddie at a diner, and basically he wants to know what happened that night, and so that's basically the gist, of the story.
And what inspired your writing for this story?
Yeah, so back in 2016, I first had the idea of the film, where so I was thinking of a character who walks to another one with a knife, and I don't want to spoil what happened, but and so that was the first image that came to mind. So and I had a lot of thoughts. I was asking myself, like, why would the protagonist choose not to kill an antagonist, right? And so with this film, I wanted to explore the theme of forgiveness and redemption.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What is it, like, how did you find this whole group of people, your actors and your assistant director and your cinematographer? How did you guys all come together?
Yeah. So for the process, the first step was to find a location. That was the first one. And so I sent around a bunch of letters, and I went to scout locations, and so I found Blessed Star Diner, who had the movie Friday the 13th, was featured in the movie Friday the 13th, and so after I found the location, I uh, I I contacted Darren, who was my teacher back in New Jersey Film School, and yeah, so I found this amazing crew, and then we auditioned, and then we found Joe, Frank, and Nicole, who were like, I guess, like a match made in heaven, and and we had a great time when we shot it.
I mean, you guys have a great energy about you, so I'm sure you had a wonderful time together, even just pre this interview. You guys are all such a wonderful bunch of people. So, um, Darren, how is it that you got into, I guess, teaching at this film school?
Sure. Well, let's see. It's a weird kind of story. Not one that I thought I would end up into, but then it was like kind of like cool happenstance. I went to school for filmmaking. I graduated with a filmmaking engineering degree. I wanted to be an editor. I wanted to be a professional editor. And when I did filmmaking, I did my schooling in California, came back to Jersey, and I didn't know a lot of stuff behind the camera. I knew like the editing section, but I didn't know all the stuff in front and behind. And there was this school called NJ Film School in New Providence, and it had like evening classes. There were 2 hours, and it kind of went over the whole kind of like quick gambit of what filmmaking was. And so I took a class, and I thought like, oh, this is super interesting. I met a lot of very interesting people. I actually met William through the film school from like an after like class like meetup kind of thing. And then I started just kind of connecting with the owner of the film school, Chris Massinio, and his wife, Liz Massinio, who's been owning the school for 15 years at this time. At this time, it's 15 years. And we just kind of connected, and they were like, we like your energy. Do you want to teach? And I was like, sure, that sounds like a cool thing to do. And so I've been teaching for 8 years, and I've grown to a huge passion of filmmaking. It's helped me actually grow tremendously as a filmmaker. I now do directing, assistant directing a lot more. I actually love assistant directing. I've done camera, I've done lighting, gaffing, grips. I've acted, done sound, done a whole bunch of stuff, and it's just grown me tremendously as a filmmaker to then pass that on to everybody. I've been teaching fifth graders through 12th graders for 8 years, and it's ended up, I've met so many amazing people. I actually met Rick through the school. He was taking an adult class that I was assisting in. And he and I just started chatting, and he brought this script to me, that Hard Feelings, and it was like, are you interested at all with you and your company, Bold Media Films, that I co-own with William? And he was like, are you interested in doing this project? And I was like, this is what I love. This is the type of stuff I love. I love teaching, I love filmmaking, I love connecting. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up and how I ended up teaching, in a long, kind of complicated story.
No, I mean, like, look, like you found it, you love doing it, and you met, you know, a wonderful person through doing it. And speaking of which, you know, William, how did you get into, you know, the school that, you know, you're teaching at, but also cinematography?
Well, I'm probably the most seasoned person on the set, being the oldest.
William just turned 60, right?
He just turned 60.
Oh my
He
God.
turned 60. It's his birthday weekend.
Yeah, my walker,
Oh,
my cane is on
Happy
order.
birthday.
Thank you. I actually started getting interested in filmmaking back in high school, you know, when all the dinosaurs were walking around. And I didn't really start working on films till probably about 25 years ago. And I started making a bunch of shorts, then I made a feature. Then I did some more things on my own, then I made another feature. Then I went to the film school and decided I should probably learn a little bit more because some of my features weren't that good. Neither were my shorts. And I got really interested in behind the camera. That's where I excel. That's what I like to do. I have a good creative eye when it comes to that. And so I mainly do all the DP work, but I still do sound. I used to do editing, but now I now have Darren. I don't have to touch that stuff.
That's
and
fine.
I did some acting.
He won an award for acting once.
I won
As a horse.
All right.
It's a long story, but
you can stop now. But I also done some action scenes and stuff like that. And then, well, after I was at the film school for a while, I decided to start up a little club just to get some people interested in filmmaking. Because normally when somebody goes to the school and they do filmmaking, they don't have any place to go to keep on doing it. So I made up a little group, and that's where I met Darren.
Yeah, we talked about earlier before we started live. It's one of the hardest things in filmmaking is to meet like-minded people and to be able to continuously work. You know, William and I have been friends for 8 years.
Something like that.
Yeah, 8 years at this time.
And we've met a lot of people. We worked with a lot of people. And the more people you meet, the better your films are going to be, because filmmaking is teamwork. It's not a one-person thing.
Yeah.
So that's me.
That's awesome. You guys, two of you making fun of each other's too much. I can't take it.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome that, you know, like, and so like with Joe and Francesco, how is it that you guys jumped onto the project? You know, are you associated with the school, or?
How did we get?
No, it was Joe and Frank. It's Joe and Frank.
Joe, did you want to go first?
Sure. I was very happy to stumble upon this, you know, just in the midst of getting out of school, and I really wanted to get into, okay, let's go into work, because, you know, when you're going to acting programs, they suggest to be very careful about auditioning for stuff while you're working, because you're always intensely working. But stumbled upon this, and I was just so like just honored and then also surprised and scared all at once. You know, I think I remember distinctly the moment where I was asked, what snacks would you like on set? And I was,
that was me. That's there. I asked you that, Joe.
I was like, what? You're like, why are you? I'm fine with any food. I mean, I'm just happy to be working there. But it was just like a really like you know, nice moment that you go progressing through and feeling like, you know, I was being a professional, and I was saying like, wow, this is working. Like, I'm a working actor, and that's something I got to embrace. And, you know, taking on the role of Daniel, it's a lot of like text analysis. It's a lot about, like one thing I like to do is make a playlist for your whichever character you're playing to see what's listening into it, what's their soundscape, like what emotions they're feeling, either lyrical or I like to use a lot of just like soundtracks or just classical kind of stuff just to really feel more of an ambient kind of sense. And just also just describing like the process of the mindset of going on the effort without spoiling of what Daniel goes through within that moment. Because we're not taking a shot of the drive there. We're not taking a shot of the written plan. We're taking a shot of the now. We're taking a shot of the action about to happen. And that was also a thrilling moment. And just a whole idea of like creating that backstory and creating those circumstances and writing each and every line. Like, what am I thinking now? What am I thinking now? What is he thinking now? Like, what reason is it that I walk this way? Such and such. So, I hope that gives a good summary of how I stumbled upon that, if that answers your question.
I think it does, absolutely. And I mean, like, hey guys, I like fruit snacks, any food's fine, like with me too. But Francesco, how did you jump on with these guys?
Like William said, I've known William and Darren now for a few years. We have a mutual friend, Debbie Higgins, who all three of us worked in separate capacities on a project she was involved with. So, like William said, like in this industry, the more you just get to know people, the more you socialize, the more you are friendly and, show other people that you want to work, work kind of finds you. And just so happened, William posted on his Facebook page that he was involved in this project and that there were roles that were listed. And I had spent a lot of time, sorry, my watch is dinging. I had spent a lot of time behind camera for a while, producing, directing, writing, editing, and I really hadn't jumped in front of the camera as an actor in many years. And I went to college, theater degree, and that was my first love, stage, film, like whatever I can get my hands on. And when I saw the post, I immediately messaged William and I was like, hey, I'm interested. Like, what do I have to do? And he put me in touch with Rikendi and I sent my audition tape. And it was one of those things that like Eddie just felt right for me. It felt like I could definitely embody this person. It felt like it was in my wheelhouse. And, even going into the audition, I was meticulous in my wardrobe I chose because I wanted to really embody this person. And just so happened the shirt that I wore in the audition wound up being the shirt, part of the wardrobe that I wore on set because it just worked. And Rikendi and I went back and forth like with a few different looks. And it just goes to show sometimes like your first instinct tends to be the right one. And from there, I got the email, the welcome from Rikendi to the set. And then I got to catch up with William and Darren in person. And it was exciting because it was the first time like post-COVID that I was on set. So it was a little nervous, but just to have, good people around. And at the funny story, before I close this out, we're at the table read and I keep looking at Joe Baez and I'm like, this guy looks familiar and I can't place it. I'm like, I know where, I'm like, I don't know. I must be losing my mind. So I go home that night and I look up Joe on Facebook. I'm like, I'm going to friend him because now we're on a project together and I wanted to run lines. And I found him and I was like, I do know him. My nephew and Joe worked together in a production of Beauty and the Beast, right, Joe? Was it Beauty and the Beast?
Yes, and then it was at the Bergen Performing Arts Center.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was one of those serendipitous moments that I was like, okay, this is all going to work. Because, like, Rikendi was great. Darren and Bill were great. Joe and Nicole, like, we all meshed. The crew, everybody. Like, it just all came together. And it was an overnight shoot, which is always difficult for actors, for directors, for everybody. Because your clock is all off. But as you saw, Emily, like, when we first got on, Darren and William, like, they bring such a good energy, like a good fun spirit that is contagious. And like, I'm the same way. And it was just that welcoming serendipitous moment that we kind of rode to the sunrise, as they say.
I mean, Joe, Frank, there were some jokes that we were going through the night that were just some of the bloopers were fantastic.
This was from 9 to like 6 in the morning or something.
I think it was like 8 to 6 in the morning. It was intense. And we would film right up until like 5:30, 6 in the morning, and just getting all the shots we needed. And it's just, especially since this film requires such an emotional toll on the actors. We have to keep their energy up. We have to be their champions for it so that they don't wane. And it was just like the biggest thing is like, everyone stay up, not just being awake, but personality, energy. And then we can crash at 7 in the morning as we're driving home.
It's not the car.
Well, you guys, you are so like entertaining and like fun to talk to, and I would love to be able to interview you for like an hour if I could, but unfortunately, like we are at time, and I just want to thank you guys so much for taking this time with me today and getting to talk a bit about yourselves and what your backgrounds are, and it makes me really excited to see your film and see like all the energy that went into it from behind the scenes. So you guys, you can see the film Hard Feelings on Saturday, March 25th at the Cranford Theater from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Thank you guys again so much for joining with me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And Joe, go Eagles.
This has been put in.
No.
Chiefs.
Hi guys.
Bye, Emily. Bye, everyone. Good seeing you.
Bye. Thank you so very much, guys. Take care.
Bye.